So going from about a 2, sometimes 3-page report, we're now about 9 pages. And sometimes more is better. And I'll just walk through kind of the high level of these various items in the report. So starting on the first page are the fund balances. So the first item is the just total of all of the funds. We have 5 funds currently with the district. And it's just the high-level summary of the total revenues, expenditures, any transfers, which means money moved between funds, and then the beginning and ending balance. So showing what the actuals were, so going left to right, the actuals for the past 2 years, so for 2020 and 2021, and the audits are still ongoing, actually, for the 1920 audit is still ongoing, so we'll have audited 2020 numbers hopefully in the next few months. Then in the middle, that highlighted is what the budget was, so what the board passed in December. And then the next 3 columns, the year-to-date is the total for the year. Then the budget versus actuals, the percentage. So just giving you a ballpark for where revenues and expenditures are. And then the last column is what was in the month of January. So obviously this is the first, looking at January, the year-to-date, and the monthly total actual are the same. And just kind of as a guide, the budget versus actual percentage, we're at 8% of the year, 1 month. That percentage really, the revenues do not come in perfectly the same every month, and expenditures don't occur the same. So it just really is a guideline versus a judgment that we're not spending enough or we're spending too much, but it just kind of gives you an idea. So these are the funds. General fund is our largest fund. So this is where all of the employees are paid out of. The majority of expenditures come in and out. The next fund, the retirement reserve fund, was a fund that was established so when an employee would separate from the district, any unpaid sick or vacation time would come out of this fund. And last year, the board decided to bring this into the general fund. So it's now an account line, so that's why this fund was closed, so that $74,000 was moved at year-end into the general fund. The K-9 donation is pretty self-explanatory, just for any donations and expenses towards the parks K-9. You'll see it today, the stickers in the back. And then the next fund is our land improvement fund, and this fund is essentially our capital improvement fund. So any improvements or updates to the various parks come from this fund. And then the final fund was established in 2016 for specific capital improvements. And we have approximately 10 years to spend these monies. We're probably going to spend them on Westwood projects this year. So this fund, the 2016 Capital Reserve Fund, will also probably be closed by the end of this year. So those, in a nutshell, high level, are the 5 funds. Any questions?
Transfers in and out, is that's basically an accrual type where you're transferring the expenses?
It's not an accrual, it is essentially moving money between funds. So if large donations or reimbursement comes in the general fund that really should go to capital, the board would approve a transfer. So it's just one-time movement of money between funds and not repayment. An advance is if it was to front the money, so there would be enough money by year end, and then that other fund would pay that fund back. So that's the difference between transfers and advances.
So it doesn't really change the total?
Correct. Yes, that is correct. It just would increase or decrease a particular fund, but the total would be 0. Yes, you're absolutely right. All right, so the next page is general fund revenues. So a lot more detail. We're starting to, and we weren't able to do this in prior years when we were with the county. Our revenues that, if you looked at fees and charges for services, it used to be all lumped together. So now we can break out, what are we actually bringing in for camping fees, facility use fees, program and vendor fees. So you'll start seeing that difference. Also with our gifts and donations, sometimes when we do receive a gift or donation, the person would want it to be for a specific person, or excuse me, a specific reason, a specific person. So that's the difference between unrestricted and restricted. So if someone gives $100 towards a bench that they would like in memory of someone, that would be restricted because they want that for a specific purpose. So that is the difference between those two. And then also with our rents and leases, we have house rents, we have properties that we rent, and as well as agricultural leases, so you'll see that. And then a little more greater breakdown of our grants and intergovernmental receipts. So that really is our all of the revenues that come in, and I'll talk about that in greater detail next month and look at trends. And then at the bottom, we give a breakout every month of the donations that we receive. And then starting on the next page is the expenditures. And so before in our financial reports, we had information by fund and information that was spent in the past month. But now we're going to start giving the breakdown of department. We didn't have departmental expenditure breakouts before. So this page is the summary of the expenditures for all of the general fund. And salaries, benefits, meaning the health insurance, workers' comp, that would be examples of benefits. And then employee reimbursements are reimbursements for like uniforms and travel and things like that. So that's the various types of personal service expenditures. And then the breakout of operating costs. So before it was pretty much lumped together, and now we'll have what we're spending on utilities, our communication, printing and advertising, professional and technical services, which are essentially contractual services, payments to other governments, and this is an example of monies that we would pay to the county for services they provide, our insurance costs, and then I think prior we used to have supplies, materials, and equipment all separate, and it was really difficult, like, okay, what's the supply, what's the material? So now that's all lumped together. Capital are those bigger ticket items, and then contingency and reserves are set aside, and I talked about those during our appropriations. So that's high level of all of general fund, and then the next is the breakdown for the various departments, starting on the next page. So all district is those type of expenditures that cover all of the district. For example, utilities. We don't have it where each department is paying their electric. So that utility there is our electric cost for all of the districts. So these are just kind of the high level expenses. Insurance isn't broken out for each department. It's paid out and benefits the entire district. So that's what some of the expenses under all district are. And then the next, kind of by size are departments. So our grounds and facilities is our largest department. Our next largest department is our naturalist, then planning, then rangers, marketing, information technology, and then administration. And so it had the breakout. So it's a lot more detail by department, and also included the employee totals for the entire district and for each department. And then the last few pages are the other funds, so our two special revenue funds, the retirement reserve fund, which is closed as of last year, and then our K-9 fund, and then our two capital improvement funds. And then on that last page with the land improvement operating